We've been told that eating too much salt, red meat, and saturated fat causes high blood pressure. Yet, somehow, people all over the internet are reporting that their blood pressure regulates on a carnivore diet. I've been carnivore for 2 years now, and my blood pressure is normal. So, let's take a look at why some of us can go fully carnivore, fix our salt exactly the way that we were instructed, and still watch our numbers refuse to move. So our blood pressure stays stuck. Here's what nobody ever puts together for us so we could see it properly. Blood pressure gets filed under cardiology. Stress, often named, stress often isn't even named. But if it gets acknowledged, it's filed anywhere. Sorry. What I want to say is, if it gets acknowledged and filed anywhere, it's under mental health. So there's no specialty that actually brings cardiology side and mental health side, so the stress and the blood pressure together for us to actually look at them at the same time. And this is happening even though we already know that stress contributes to high blood pressure. Like, that's something that's been acknowledged and isn't controversial. But when we're in front of our doctor and mention how stressful our life has been, our doctor offers us medication. When we complain about the household finances, our doctor focuses in on our weight and encourages us to eat that low-fat diet to reduce blood pressure. When we are frustrated that our children are struggling at school, we are encouraged to be careful how much salt we put on our food. Every intervention is focused on managing our food or forcing our blood pressure with medication. And nobody's actually tied like this together, like simply, nobody's tried to just pause and address the stress by itself. It turns out that's the change that most of us actually need. The one thing that I remember when I was growing up about holidays was that my mother never stopped moving. This is especially the case for Christmas. Sometimes, and I remember that it happened more than once. So this is something that I actually can think about and remember, that I went to bed, my mom was doing stuff, and I woke up and she was doing stuff. And when I actually asked her, she said she hadn't gone to sleep. 24 hours straight, not sleeping, preparing for Christmas. Moms don't just make sure that events go well, right? We're the ones holding the households together. And I'm not saying that some dads don't do this too. I'm just saying it's not healthy. Like, we work full-time jobs, then we clean the house, then we cook the meals, then we do the dishes, right? We do the homework with the kids. We organize the kids' activities. We drive the kids to the activities that we organize. We only rest after all the chores are done and everyone else is taken care of. There's a real problem with being on all the time. When it's just our job to be on the go, getting stuff done so that the household can run correctly, being drained becomes normal. It becomes just how we feel. We don't even notice it. There have been so many different occasions where my doctor has asked me, but aren't you exhausted, when I go through all the things that I do or used to do? And I was like, no. It's like, you know what? I was exhausted. I just didn't know. Giving all of our energy without having fun registers as responsible. It honestly seems like there's no other choice. And when the house looks amazing and the kids are doing well and everything else, everybody else is healthy, right? We think we've accomplished our job, that we've succeeded, right? Pat yourself on the back, Violet, right? Like, look at how your house and look how everybody's doing. We don't label the exhaustion, well, probably because we don't notice it, right? It just feels normal. But there's irritability, right? Your spouse tells you how snappy you are. Your spouse and your kids complain about your attitude. There's an inability to turn off our brain because we're trying to sleep, but we're thinking about what we have to get done tomorrow. There's the forgetfulness. Like, I actually remember needing to write things down. I don't write anything down anymore, but I used to have to write everything down. And the headaches that would take me out for a complete day. And I've talked to people that get headaches that take them out for several days in a row. Like, that's not how we're supposed to be living life. There's muscle tension that we carry in our body because stress has physical representations. And we walk around feeling tense and stressed and, right? Upset stomachs. Another one that I used to have, I remember not being able to eat. I was so like frazzled by all the things that I needed to get accomplished. Like not being able to put food in and get it down. That's not healthy. And what about the fact that we are constantly getting sick? And I do put part of that on the fact that I sometimes couldn't eat, but I don't think it was just that. I think that we're so stressed out, our immune system just cannot manage. None of these things are taken by us as signs of stress, even though each one of those things I just listed are signs of stress. And these symptoms that I just went through, they don't stop us from pushing through and getting things done. Right? We do our work regardless, which of course only makes it worse, right? It just, eventually we're sitting in front of our doctor explaining our symptoms and how out of control our life is feeling. And our doctor takes our blood pressure, and sure enough, it is ridiculously high. And how could it not be high living the lives that we're living? And the first thing that every doctor, well, at least I know all my doctors ever did, was offer me medication, right? You know, some blood pressure medication is going to manage this, is going to get you back. Like, now, luckily for me, medication tends to make me feel horrible. So I never wanted to go the medication route. But the other thing that you'll be told if you refuse the medication, if you don't want to go that direction, he might tell you to lower your salt intake. I did that. But everything that you would have said about your life being overwhelming and stressful and just like frustrating and driving you crazy goes mostly ignored, Wellness Warrior. Like that conversation isn't taking further than, oh, that sounds horrible. Oh, yeah, I know. It's tough. And I say mostly goes ignored. I'm going to say mostly. The only way that this will be addressed, like the only way the doctor is going to pause on it, is if you are actually having a panic attack in the office. Yes, the doctor will pause on it. If you express not being able to go to work, yes, the doctor will pause on it. Or if you have a negative mood that doesn't lift for several days, maybe even like, more than a few weeks, the doctor is going to pause on that. Because one of those scenarios, any one of those scenarios, if they come up for you, that means that now the doctor is going to give you a referral to see a psychologist. Right? So there's another professional that you need to go talk to. Your blood pressure and your life stresses are treated as if they are completely unrelated, even though we are all aware that stress causes high blood pressure. We've all heard that. It's been said over and over and over again. We've all heard that statement. It doesn't make any sense, but many of us will leave that appointment aware that we need to get our diet under control if we want to manage our blood pressure, and if we need to manage our life, we should be seeking therapy, right, to manage that stress that we're so under. Separate. And, well, first of all, since the food seems easier to manage, but second of all, since the food is something I'm going to purchase anyway, right? I'm going to buy food. Most people end up focusing on it. Well, another reason is also because many of us have weight we're trying to regulate. So we end up focusing on the food part of what the doctor said and completely disregarding the maybe get therapy, maybe go work on these problems happening in your life. Now, there's also a stigma attached to getting therapy, especially if you're male. Like, more women go to therapy than men. Another stigma is depending on the cultural background. Some cultures just flat out like will practically excommunicate you if you say that you do therapy. So I know that there's also a stigma attached to this. So we end up putting all our attention on the food variable, or maybe taking that medication if you don't have issues with taking medication. Now, there's two ways that the food side will work itself out, right? So if we do the lower your salt, lower the fat intake, stay away from the red meats. If we do the typical standard American diet world scenario that the doctor is going to suggest to us, this usually leads to typical results of us struggling with high blood pressure and eventually conceding to the fact that we need to take medication because all the food stuff, it just doesn't seem to work out. Or we do a well-formulated keto diet to start with. You might even transition into a carnivore diet. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of carnivores seem to have managed their blood pressure issues quite significantly. And that means that you're eating appropriate salt intake, which is 5 grams of sodium daily. That turns out to be about 12.5 grams of actual salt. The complete opposite of lowering your salt intake, because that's more than we're typically told to have in a day. Eating fatty fish or meat or poultry and eating the whole egg. Doing this often leads to improved blood pressure for most people. I mean, it's counter to everything that we've ever heard. And yet, when we do what's healthy for our body, things work out. Now, I made a video about all of this that you can find in the description below, so I'm not going to stay stuck here because I want you to understand there's more to this. Because there's a subset of people, so of our community, who go keto and carnivore, who are absolutely doing keto and carnivore correctly, but still have high blood pressure. Of course, our first thought is that there's something wrong with the diet, right? Because if you're doing the diet perfectly, everyone else is getting results, but you're not getting results. You start to question, is that why they're getting the results? Right? So the first thing you question is, this diet doesn't work. However, if you kind of figure out, okay, no, the diet's working because maybe other things are happening for me, like I'm losing weight and other things are regulating, but my blood pressure is okay, so you might start to realize, okay, the diet's working, but why is my blood pressure not regulating? And then we're going to think, well, maybe me specifically making some kind of mistake where these things are getting better, but this one thing is not getting better. But because we don't even register our stress as a problem to manage, We don't link our stress to our blood pressure. We keep trying to manage it through food and medication, right? Because this is this system that we have been in our entire lives, because for most of us, we're not coming from other countries where they focus on holistic and, other ways. In North America, it's all about medication to solve medical and food to solve weight, and right, and sometimes there's a food thing that might be thrown out by medical, and typically the food thing being thrown out is inaccurate, just to say it at that minimum. So let's take a look at why changing the food and a keto way or carnivore way actually works. Why does that result in our blood pressure going down? When insulin is high, our body holds on to sodium, right? Our blood pressure, therefore, goes through the roof. It rises, right? We get diagnosed with high blood pressure. Reducing carbohydrates in our diet lowers insulin, and therefore we're able to release the sodium. But now, for a lot of people, that is what we see, that initial water weight that we lose, because we're carrying water weight because we are holding on to too much sodium. So we have like a flush of sodium. We don't want to have too little sodium because that causes problems too. This is part of the reason that a lot of doctors encourage people who are starting keto and carnivore to just use a lot of salt, and then you kind of figure yourself out as you move forward, because by using more salt, we hold on to some of that sodium while because carbs also hold water. So we have our salt holding water. We have our insulin telling our body to hold water. And then we have the carbohydrates holding water. We're holding more water than we need be holding. When we take those carbs down and we let it go, that's good news. We lose that water weight. Our body is functioning better. But if we lose too much, we'll have headaches and problems. And we'll have withdrawal, physiological withdrawal symptoms, which isn't great. And we can minimize those by eating salt. If you're new to this way of life, you're welcome. That's something that's going to help you to suffer a little less than I did when I started. And of course, the end result of lowering those carbohydrates, which lowers your insulin, equals our blood pressure lowers. Terrific. This is amazing. And we are happy, most of us. The problem is, our kidneys respond to more than one hormone. It's not just insulin that's impacting whether we hold on to sodium or not. The other hormone that can cause our kidneys to hold on to sodium is cortisol, the stress hormone. Yeah. This constant frustration and stress that we're living all the time means that cortisol is constantly on, right? All of our responsibilities sitting on our shoulders 24/7 all the time. We never get a break. We're always thinking about what we have to do next, what's coming up with the kids, and oh my goodness, appointments and stress. And do you understand, Wellness Warrior, that if our stress is working correctly, so what I mean by that is, if we feel stressed in a normal scenario where we should feel stressed, then it's not a big deal. We will have a moment of cortisol going up, but then it'll come back down and life goes on. It's when it's on all the time because of the pressures that we are living all the time that it becomes problematic. That's it. That's another way that our blood pressure stays elevated and we stay trapped, focused on food or medication. Right? The two things that our medical world keeps pointing us towards. You need this medication or you need to make these mistakes with food, right? But now that we know it's not actually about food, the real work that we need to do can begin. Like we can start solving the problems in our lives. That's what we need to do to solve what's going on with us. Often I see women who are exhausted cleaning or doing laundry because it needs to be done, right? Like a lot of the time, the idea that, so they'll say something to me like, well, if I don't do it, it won't get done. But the same women, when I ask them, haven't asked their spouses to help. They haven't asked their teenage or sometimes even adult children to help. But they're on the verge of a breakdown. If you don't ask, how do you know that you can't get help? And a lot of the time, the answer that I'm going to get is that, oh, but they work so hard. You know, my kids are studying and they're so busy at school and whatever. Oh, my husband works so hard and he has a long day. But that same woman is going to work all day too, and coming home and doing all these things. Wellness warrior, I don't have more ability to work hard than my kids, or and they're not weaker than me. They can work just as hard as I can. Like, I don't understand why that's the answer, but it's often the answer that I will get. They work so hard. They're studying they're doing so well in school. I don't want to disturb. Like folding laundry would stop them from being able to do well at school. Like washing dishes is going to stop him from being able to go to work tomorrow and make a living. But somehow it doesn't stop me from thinking or stop me from being able to go to work. Then we need to learn to rest. And that means saying no to working when we don't have the energy to work, which also means that we sometimes will need help from the other people living in our home who could be helping. There's this mindset that rest is for the lazy. Interestingly, it seems to apply mostly to women. I don't really understand, or those men who run the household. Like somehow the person running the household, if they rest, they're lazy. Or if they rest, they're indulgent. If I decide to take a day to go to the spa, I'm being indulgent, no matter how much I've worked. If I decide to go read in the park, I'm being indulgent, though that costs nothing. If I take a damn nap, I'm being indulgent and lazy. And I should, right? Where does this idea come from? Because it's completely backwards and false. In truth, rest is restorative. Yeah. If you rest, you restore yourself, and then we do our best work when we are rested. This isn't about overhauling your entire life. I'm not asking you to do something that's going to shut down the way that your house functions, that your kids are not going to get their homework done, or that they're going to miss their activities. This is about adding some pauses, some natural pauses, so that you can actually have the energy to not just take them to the activity, but actually maybe enjoy being there with them and engaging if you can engage, or going off and doing some errands with energy rather than going off and doing the errands because you have to drag yourself through it, because if you don't buy the groceries, well, who's going to buy the slowing down once in a while so that you can enjoy some quiet, wellness warrior. Like, I remember when I actually started just at the end of my day sitting. Just sitting. Like the kitchen did not need to be cleaned up exactly after my daughter went to bed. That maybe I do it later before I go to work, go to bed, or maybe I do it the next day when I felt like I had more energy. But like not forcing myself to do the dishes because, oh, she's in bed, I have to do and you know what? Just giving myself the space to not do it every night. I would do it most nights. But once in a while, if I was tired, I just didn't do it. So again, it's this thing where just giving myself options, taking care of me. And then I started to find my actual moments. Where did I want to take my breaks? It didn't have to be just when she was sleeping. Like I could set her up with something to do and then take a break myself, right? If she's playing a game, I could actually be reading, or hey, maybe take a shower. When, like, can I set up my life in a way where I can ask my kid to do something so that I could do something else? And eventually, that she was maybe emptying the dishwasher while I did something else, so I didn't have that task on my list. When we've been taught that it's our job to make sure that the home runs smoothly and that everyone else comes first, the first thing we need to do is break that horrible, terrible habit. It's a ridiculous habit. And it's not true. It's something you're doing because you've been told to do it. Our blood pressure issue is a very good reason to look at what we're doing and decide to put our health first. We need to prioritize our health over working ourselves to death, right? Prioritize health, Wellness Warrior. That's a mantra on this channel for a reason. Prioritize your health. The truth is, we can't take care of our family if our health is failing. There's no use to that. We won't be any use to them. Every day that you eat on plan, so eat that healthy food, the keto or carnivore way of eating, that whichever one you've chosen to do, and take time for yourself, you are prioritizing your health. Managing stress is a part of good health, period. And whether the issue is at home, so like, is it in my house, at work, maybe it's with friends, finding real solutions so that you can feel at peace with whatever answer that you end up figuring out is an important part of being healthy. If you don't find a solution to what's going on, like for example, my spouse helping me once with dinner is not a solution, because the other 30 whatever days of the month, I'm running around like a crazy person. We needed to figure out how we were dividing things so that it makes sense, right? When we're together, we don't do the same stuff. And most people, that's not what we're doing, right? Like, for example, we don't both need to be in the kitchen cooking and then both need to be in the laundry room and then both need to be cleaning the house. Like, we don't both need to be doing all the things together, especially if, for example, I hate cooking. I put my hands up for that, but I don't mind like organizing the living room we need to be aware of what we are good at and what we're not good at, and then divide and conquer so that we get things done and neither of us becomes burned out. Emotions are a natural part of being alive, Wellness Warrior. And if we don't let ourselves touch them, like we need to touch them, then we're not going to know how to solve problems. And we will never figure out. The reality is, dealing with our emotions actually brings us relief. It actually allows us to feel better. When we don't deal with our emotions, we stay stuck. Now, I know that we've been made to feel weak and even pitiful for having emotions, right? I can tell you that I cannot stand when I'm watching something or reading something and the conclusion is that, oh, well, she's just sensitive. I'm sorry to tell you, every person has emotions. right? Every single one of us. There isn't a person on the planet who doesn't have emotions. And yes, I'm even including in there people on the autism spectrum. They have emotions. How you express your emotions, that's different. A lot of us have been taught not to express our emotions. But I want you to understand something, Wellness Warrior. We have emotions for a reason. Without emotions, we would never solve anything because we need them to solve. They're part of the solution process. Right? We'd remain stuck otherwise. And eventually our life would fall apart. It would just cease to be something that we can do. And I see that happen to people. I watch it happen because they refuse to engage their feelings, and therefore they stay stuck. And I know that sounds backwards, but that's the type of stuff we work on and work through in the Wellness Squad, because it's just the truth. In the squad, I can take the time to walk through real examples of life problems, and then we can find solutions together. Obviously, you need to know what you're willing to do in your life to solve something. So that's why I can't just do it like this, because there's a real conversation that's happening. And real solutions need to be discussed and figured out. If you're ready to solve your life's problems and get your life back, your health back, get back on track, there's a link to in the description to the Wellness Squad. You should click on that and come join us and start actually solving these things, because that's the way that life gets better, right? At the end of the day, solving your stress will help you to fix this blood pressure issue that you've possibly been living if keto and carnivore wasn't enough to do it. That's the next thing I want you to think about looking at. And I'm not saying it's the only other thing. You know, the more I learn about eating healthy, the more I realize that there's other pieces of the puzzle that come in and cause problems. And the solution is always the same that we're given. Take this medication. If you take this medication, things are going to go better. You know, I didn't only, like, blood pressure is not the only thing that has ever, like, creeped around in life and messed with people. Like, even something as simple as not being able to stick to the diet that you've committed to will cause you to not solve your weight issues. Or maybe you have like other health issues that you know, like for example, skin issues or what, that you know are related to eating foods that you're trying desperately to stop eating, but you can't because you keep going back to them. For me, recently, I realized that even something as simple as keeping one thing in my diet had my cravings still going. That's like, I'll link that video. It's also in the description below. But it'll be at the end screen too. Dairy. When I stopped dairy, I realized that, wow, I was still chasing. I was still in a problem. I was still struggling. Wellness Warrior, I'm going to keep making videos and trying to find ways to help you guys to solve all of these different things, because we don't know what we don't know, right? We don't know it until we touch it and realize there's a problem there. So if you want to support me in that mission, again, there's links to be able to support the channel. You can directly contribute, or you can join the YouTube membership. There's lots of ways that you can contribute. I want to make more videos because these are the things that sneakily push us towards medication. And Dr. Barry, Dr. Hampton, Dr. Eid, like so many doctors, Dr. Chafee, have helped me to understand that when you get the food right, then you don't need to go that medication route, because your body regulates itself. It regulates your weight as well. It regulates all that stuff. That's how come I'm able to sit here in front of you 8 years in at healthy weight. And I never struggled with my weight. Like, I reached healthy weight and just stayed there. Not because I'm Superwoman, because of something easy that you can do too, right? Eat on plan every day. But it only becomes easy when you make the decision that that's what I do every day. Again, that dairy video is going to help you to really see what I'm talking about, because one small thing that I was still doing totally was impacting me without me even knowing that it was impacting me. So that video is linked in the description. Okay, I want to answer your comments. So if you have a comment, this is the time, or question, this is the time to ask me, for me to answer it live. I see there's only 3 here, so I'm going to do the 3 that I have. And if you have nothing to ask, or you have no questions because everything I said was so totally clear, spot on, like you understood it, then I really encourage you, subscribe, because that means that you're going to be able to get my next videos, because I'm not stopping until I help 1,000 people solve this problem. And I don't know, I'll probably even go past that, but I want to be able to verifiably say 1,000 people said, Violet, you impacted my life. So if you're one of those people, I'd love to know, but I'm not stopping. So really, subscribe so that you're going to see my next video and be able to change your life. That, like, I feel so happy that I found the doctors I found who helped me to change my life. And I'm going to push that forward as far as I can. As far as I can. Dr. Mason, Dr. Bickman, Dr. Westman, all of these doctors changed my life. And I'm going to keep pushing till I do it for 1,000 people. I'm about, all right, I checked recently, 50 something in. So there's 50 something people that I know that I actually helped. Okay. The main reason the DASH diet lowers people's blood pressure is the amount of potassium in the diet. That's interesting. That's it. So the one thing that I will say about the DASH diet that I understand, because it's still a high carbohydrate diet, which just tells us how much we need these micronutrients, first of all, if potassium can come in. So I feel like that helps me to see, this is me like just kind of going off the cuff of what I understand about these foods. Every single cell in our body has a sodium potassium pump. We're holding on to sodium. I would imagine that if we increase our potassium coming in and we get the balance back to being correct, so we don't have too much sodium because now we've just increased the amount of potassium, yes, our blood pressure theoretically would stabilize. But the problem that I see there is that we still are overdoing carbohydrates. Our insulin is still low, and so therefore we're still pushing towards insulin resistance. Our insulin, and we haven't actually solved the real problem, which is that we're eating the wrong foods. So even though that logic, if that's really what's happening, it's telling us that we do need potassium. Terrific. It's telling us that we do need sodium. Or no, it's not telling us that, but I'm saying that. We need sodium. We need potassium. Every cell in our body has a sodium potassium pump. That's part to me is obvious. I think the more important thing is, can we get sodium and potassium in the right amounts in a healthier way? But thank you for sharing that. Never actually thought it through, but that's really cool to kind of think through and see the logic there. Hi, Russell. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I will say that I remember being very young, the first time I heard that stress causes blood pressure issues. And I do remember being in my doctor's office and talking about all my stressors and not having them at all say anything about stress. It just like blows my mind when I think back on all the different medical interventions I've had in my lifetime, although I never officially got a high blood pressure diagnosis, but I did talk about the stressors in my life. At no point did my doctor say, hey, maybe you want to get, work on those things so that you don't end up with high blood pressure. But boy, were they focused on how much weight I was gaining. Like that was a definite concern that needed to be spoken about at every session, or every appointment, I should say. So it's complicatedly frustrating and happy for me that I found Keto and Carnivore. Like, it's frustrating only because I now realize that 23 years of my life were uncomfortable, painful. I would even go as far as saying painful and uncomfortable unnecessarily. And that's most people. Most people are living a painful, uncomfortable life unnecessarily. And I find that that's unacceptable. That's why I'm making these videos. That's unacceptable to me, that you or I should be living an uncomfortable, painful life because we don't. No, not that we don't know, because we've been misled about what is healthy for us to eat. I don't believe that should be a thing, and I definitely want us to make it not a thing ever anymore at all. Shelly 4417. Hello, Shelly. Electrolytes spike my blood pressure. Any advice? Electrolytes spike my blood pressure. My guess, and this is me guessing because I don't know what electrolytes you're taking. So I'm just guessing here. I think that there's either some kind of sweetener, so actual sugar, something spiking your actual glucose, or artificial sweetener in these electrolytes. The artificial sweetener would be just mentally spiking your insulin. But either of those things will result in your insulin being high again, and therefore your blood pressure going back up. And you're saying you're taking Sol. I've never heard of it, but what I'll say to you is if it tastes at all sweet, and this is part of the problem and one of the things I have an issue with taking electrolytes, because we need not take electrolytes. First of all, Dr. Baker has made very many videos talking about how if you eat muscle meats, and that's what you're eating, you will get all of the micronutrients that you need. Now, I watched Judy Nutrition, I believe is what her channel is called. I can't remember. I feel like she's a researcher, not necessarily a doctor. But the thing that she pointed out is that we can actually overdo micronutrients if we eat things like organ meats, any of the organ meats. We can overdo them. So what that says to me is that theoretically, if all we do, thank you, Judy Cho, if all we do is have organ meats occasionally, if we're actually worried about it, we would have the micronutrients that we need. Because the other thing about micronutrients, if I'm understanding it correctly, is it's not like we just lose them overnight. Like when we get them, they're in our system for a while. So if I just believe Judy, if I just believe her and have my my organ meats once in a while, I'm topping up probably more than I even need to. Now I see that you write here that there's no sweetener in it. So not having sweetener in it, I'm going to still ask you, but does it taste sweet to you? When you drink it, does it taste sweet? And would it taste sweet to me? So this is another thing that I want to point out, because it depends on what you're doing. If you're carnivore and you take this electrolyte thing, it might taste sweet to you even if there's no sweetener in it. And if it tastes sweet at all, whether it has sweetener in it or not, Our brain responds to the taste of sugar, like before it ever gets into our system, because sugar is that toxic. I can't say that enough. Sugar is that problematic for us that if something tastes the slightest bit sweet, then our body's going to react. So you're saying it tastes salty. I would be validating what else is in there. If every time you take that solution, let me just try to see if I can quickly look up Sol, see what the ingredients are. S-O-L-E. Electrolyte. Because, maybe there's something in there that, can I see? Let's see. I'm not finding it. But if I was in your situation, I would be looking Sole, okay? If I was in your situation, thank you for the pronunciation. If I was in your situation, I'd be looking very sincerely at the ingredients. But actually, if I was in your situation, I would just stop using it. I'll be very honest with you. If I took something that is supposed to be good for me and it makes my blood pressure go up, I would stop using it. Why? Because it made my blood pressure go up. I wouldn't need any other explanation for it. So why? Because I feel like we've been trained by medical and this diet industry world that we are stuck in to look for workarounds rather than do the thing that's healthiest for us. And I personally believe that that's a huge mistake. The goal isn't to work around. The goal is to do the thing that's healthy, right? So if I eat something, which in my history, when I was keto and learned that I actually reacted to, what do you call those things? The nightshade vegetables. So that's like eggplant, paprika, so the spice paprika, like any kind of red peppers, tomatoes, so because I went keto, I was able to figure out that only when I had certain dishes that I would make that had some kind of nightshade vegetable in it was my joint pain back. I didn't try to figure out how to make those dishes without the nightshade vegetable. I just took the dish out of my life and I took the nightshade vegetables out of my life. Eventually, I took all vegetation out of my life. Because why? Because I learned from Dr. Eid and Dr. Chafee and Sally Norton. All plants have some level of chemicals that are not good for us, right? The animal is supposed to eat the plant, and then we're supposed to eat the animal. So what I'm suggesting to you, Shelly, is that you really just work on being happy to eat the healthy thing rather than trying to force yourself or try to figure out a way to keep the electrolyte in your life if it's not working for you. And so I know that there was the other company there that makes, I can remember the name of their product, but they were saying, oh, there's nothing in it. And then someone had it analyzed and found that, yes, there was, I think it was maltodextrin in it or something that they didn't have on the packaging. There was something in it that was not on the packaging. That is blatantly misleading people and causing health issues. So if you are reacting, believe that there's something there that you shouldn't be having and just put it down. That would be my answer. Sorry for the long answer, but I've lived this myself and I've had the negative repercussions and they were painful. And I don't want people to go through what I went through. But at the same time, I understand I can't make you do anything. So you're going to take your decision. You're going to do whatever you want to do because that's life, right? I'm an adult. You're an adult, right? I'm not anyone in your life beyond the influencer sitting in front of you talking about what I did to save my hip and to get my weight back to normal, right? I was 80 pounds overweight, which put me in the obese category, which I can say today, but it used to hurt me to even say the word that I was obese. Like I wasn't able to get the words out. I can say it today because it's just reality. I was, but I'm not anymore. I haven't been for 8 years. No, that's not right. For 7.5 years. Right? It took me 5 months to fix this. 5 months. Something that I'd struggled with for 10 years before that, 10-ish years before that. 5 months to solve. And all I did was eat real food. So it's doable. Hello, Yellow Rose. Nice to have you here. I'm glad that you're able to join at all. So I'm happy. Do you have a question? Let's see. How about glycerin? I add it to coffee. Is it any good? I don't remember what glycerin is. Let me just look that up for a quick. The word sounds interesting. I feel like it's some kind of it's sweet tasting liquid. Chemically, it is a sugar alcohol. Yeah, no. So again, this is the thing. If you taste sweet, now I'm going to say two things. If you taste sweet, your brain's already reacting. Your insulin already went up. You are blocking your own progress. But the second thing I'm going to say is doctors have already pointed out, so I'm talking about all the keto carnivore doctors have all pointed out, when in our body, sugar alcohols just turn back into sugar. It like our body easily cleaves off that OH and it becomes I think it's OH, yeah, and it becomes a sugar again. So basically, they call it a sugar alcohol to make us think that it's not the same thing as sugar. In our body, it's reacting the same as sugar. And I know people hate when I say this, but in our body, if you eat an apple or you eat one of these things, the carbohydrate that comes out of it to the body is the same. It doesn't matter that it came from an apple or it came from a chocolate bar. Your body only sees that carbohydrates came in. In our body, so in our mouth, when our mouth tastes sweet, it doesn't matter if it's actually sugar, so it's going to be sugar in our body, or if it tastes like sugar, but one of the ones that actually can't turn into sugar. And it can't, like, there is no carbohydrate load to it at all. Because our mouth reacts when it comes in, your insulin already went up. Wellness Warrior, that cephalic response matters the most. Because what it's actually doing is it's causing your body to push cravings. Because as soon as my body thinks carbohydrates are coming in, it's going to start frantically trying to make room for these incoming carbohydrates. And then what happens? No carbohydrates come in. Now what's going on in my blood? I'm a little low. My body's going to go pull some carbohydrates out from my muscles or whatever, right? But I'm also going to have a little bit of a crash because the carbs that I thought were coming in didn't come in. And guess what happens there? When that spike and then crash and spike and then crash keeps happening to us all the time, we get hungry. We are craving. We're overeating. It's not a good idea. So anything that tastes sweet, we shouldn't be having. And I'm saying anything. Like, I want to be clear about that. I'm actually saying, don't eat sweet stuff. I'm actually saying that. Keto has been made to be about, and it is about, keto is about eating low carbohydrate stuff. I'm taking it a step further. I'm saying I don't eat sweet stuff because sweet stuff makes you chase. That's what it does. So if it were me, I put down, and I did, I put down everything sweet. Even my coffees at the end, like my last, I don't even know how many years since I actually became carnivore, especially, but even before that, there was no sweeteners, there was no flavorings beyond the heavy cream and butter or whatever fat I was putting. It was usually butter because coconut oil causes me to have skin, because coconut oil is a plant oil. My skin was reacting. I was making poor quality skin. Since I've changed to only using animal fats, my skin on my hands is back to normal. Like, we think all these things are because, oh, there's something wrong with my skin. No, it's because we're eating because we're eating the wrong stuff, right? We're trying to make our body build animal skin, so with plant fats. Like it doesn't work. And by the way, if you ask the doctors, they say it doesn't work. Like the keto and carnivore doctors talk about it, it doesn't work. And even if you ask just generally doctors, like, is the fat from a plant and the fat from an animal the same? They will tell you that it's not. They understand biology and chemistry and physiology. They know it's not. But then they're going to turn around and tell you, but it's still healthier to eat. How can it be when we need to build our body with fat? Anyway, I'm ranting. I'm sorry. This stuff really does get under my skin. I'm in a catch-22 situation. As I exercise every day, I have to supplement. Like, no, you don't. So again, these are just lies that we've been told. If you drink, and if you wanted to even just make sure that you don't, like, if you want to make sure that you're doing everything you're supposed to do properly, exercising every day just means you're going to sweat more. So if you drink regular water, you've replaced the water that you sweated out. When we sweat, we give our body the opportunity to release toxins. So that's what's coming out of us. Now, will a little bit of salt come out? Sure. If you want, though, to make sure that you replace the salt that came out appropriately, salt your food to taste. Like, this is something that Dr. Barry taught to me 7.5 years ago when I first started my keto lifestyle. I found that video. Him and Dr. Nicolandino, I can't remember how to say his name. Now, on that particular topic, those two doctors talking about it, I made my adjustments and started salting my food to taste. And I, like, the amount of salt that I put on my food, and you compare it to the amount of salt that my spouse puts on his food versus the amount of salt that the kids put on their food, completely different. All three of us, like all three sets of us. My daughter is closer in salting than to like myself than she is to the boys, right? But the thing is, if you actually salt your food to taste, that's your body telling you how much salt you need. And Dr. Barry said something that totally put me on board with this. Like, he pointed out that there's moose and other like large animals in the wild that will walk very long distances to go and lick salt off of rocks and whatever because they need it. Like, this is just a natural, normal thing that happens. So I'm just telling you, do more research and update yourself on, like, first of all, like the micronutrients that we actually need to get in and like push to get, but also where you can get them from. I do feel like part of the reason a lot of us get stuck and don't get the results that we want is because we are so focused on keeping the carbohydrates in our life. We're so focused on keeping flavors in our life that we end up trading our health for flavors. And we don't realize that meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt is what we actually need to be eating on a regular basis. And of course, adding iodine, especially if you don't eat a lot of fish, adding iodine. But even if you eat fish, I've learned recently, yeah, we need to add it. We need to add it. You said, if I don't do this, I get cramps terribly. And this is where I come back to, are you getting enough iodine in? Are you, so many other things, like I'm learning so many things, and I will be making a video about this, but are you actually putting your body in enough positions that your circulation is flowing properly, which is another thing that I've learned. Like this thing I'm doing right now, sitting in a chair, horrible for circulation. Horrible. I don't spend much time sitting in chairs anymore. I try to get up and move around as much as I possibly can. When I make videos, I do sit. And mostly because I'm quite fidgety and I would just get out of the camera range if I didn't sit. But like, I want us to really understand that there's other reasons that we get leg cramps. I have a video on this channel where Dr. Hampton walks through many of the other reasons. And yes, electrolytes could be part of the story. But as I just mentioned, you can get electrolytes naturally by eating organ meats. Like I would really encourage you to, rather than looking at electrolyte mixes, which is, I don't trust companies. I'm just gonna say it right out. I don't trust companies. They can't manipulate a piece of organ, right? I mean, they theoretically could. I'm not going to say they can't, because our food industry does a lot of stupid stuff. But typically, they're not manipulating organ meats. Typically, but they can manipulate anything that they process in a factory. Let's see. Archie Fuller. Hello, Archie. How are you doing? 1 teaspoon of sole has 480 milligrams of sodium. And if you have high blood pressure, heart disease, kidney problems, you need to consult your physician. Well, thanks for sharing that, as I couldn't find it to look it up. I'm just wondering what else is in it. And if you're taking it only for the sodium, and 480 milligrams is not that much, considering that we need 5 grams of sodium daily if we're eating properly. So again, like, my question mark to you, Shelley, is what diet are you doing? And are you doing it appropriately? Because according to Dr. Finney, if you're doing keto appropriately, you need 5 grams of sodium, which is 12.5 grams of salt daily. And I put a lot of salt on my food, and I'm still sure I'm not getting 12.5 grams of salt on my food. And I put a lot of salt. Like, it's scary for people the first time they see me salt my food. Oh, sorry, you said it's glycine, not glycerin. Thank you for the correction. Did I misread it? I misread it. How about glycine? Thank you for the correction. Glycine. So glycine, I believe, is an amino acid. Am I correct? Glycine is an amino acid. Yeah, it's an amino acid. I mean, there's nothing wrong with amino acids, first of all, but I would always encourage us to get amino acids from food. And thank you, Shelley, for the correction. We should be getting amino acids from food. So again, I don't trust companies. What else is in that powder besides glycine? I don't trust companies. I really encourage people, if you need more glycine, then eat more protein. Animal protein. Let me be very specific. Eat more animal protein. But that's the only thing I have to say on that. I believe that we should absolutely always only get our protein from real animal sources. Even if you're going to eat non-animal, if you're going to eat anything that's not meat, fish, poultry, eggs, or salt, then it should be actually something that grew. If I would rather you eat an apple than eat protein powder. That's how much I don't trust companies. And I wouldn't encourage anyone to eat an apple, just putting it out there, right? So that's what I would say. Thank you for the correction, Shelley. Let's see, what else do I have here? Is L-glycine powder supports sleep? Yeah, collagen. Again, you would support your sleep by eating real foods. Antioxidant defense. Our body makes antioxidants, so I'm not really sure what they're saying about glycine that's making. Companies make so many claims on packages. And Wellness Warrior, I want you to think about all the packaging claims on the cereals that you've ever bought for yourself or your children. All the packaging claims on the juices that you've ever bought for yourself or your children that were bold-faced exaggerations, if not pure lies, to get you to buy their product that they knew was not healthy for you. We need to really understand that we didn't get to this level of civilization because of packaged foods. We got here because we were eating real meat, real fish, real poultry, and eggs. That's what allowed our brains to grow to the size that they grew to make us as smart as we got, to be able to do all this other stuff. And now we are jeopardizing all of that. All of it. We're jeopardizing it because we are believing the lies of a few people who, by the way, if you read Michael Moss's book, Salt, Sugar, Fat, one of the things that he talked about in that book is the fact that the people who own these companies do not eat their product. Let that sink in for a second. Like there was recently one of the big execs of, I think it was Burger King or Wendy's. I can't remember exactly what, but they came with a new burger, whatever. And in the interview, they got surprised with their own burger to eat. And the guy took one bite, put it down, and said, I'll eat it later. Never touched it again. These big companies know better than to eat their own product. And we've heard that story before, right? There's other places where you don't touch your own product. If you think about, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, right? You sell it, but you don't use it. That makes you a millionaire and makes them dependent on you. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those guys. And this is the same story happening here with big food, right? I don't trust packaged products. Saw some of the carnivore influencers said he takes it. That's why I bought it. And they might be taking it. I'm not going to discount that. So again, another thing I want to point out to you that I find frustrating is that there's a lot of people who started keto or carnivore, got completely healthy, not taking anything. Companies come along, like they have with me, and offer them products. Right? Oh, take this supplement, take this, that. I've been offered things, but I didn't use those things to get to where I am. And I don't use those things. So I'm not using those things now. So why would I take your product and sell it to my audience when I don't use it? Now, yes, that means that person's making money and I'm not. Part of the reason I ask you guys to help me, because I want to make more videos. But I'm not going to do what they're doing. I'm not going to pretend that I use something. So there are people that do that too, that they just for the video take a little sip and show like, if, oh my God, this is amazing, but they don't actually drink it. There are people that do that too. I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to take the product, put it out there like if I use it when I'm not. And I'm not going to start using a product that I never used because I don't trust companies. So, and I'm not saying I've never tried products. Before I understood, especially after that whole debacle, right? With the electrolytes and them having stuff in it that there wasn't supposed to, like when that happened, I decided, yeah, like, well, actually it was before that, because I think there was something else that I tried and it didn't work out for me. But I had tried Element and I had tried like lots of different things. And I started to realize that I'm putting my faith in company. And that's another one, that there was another company where they were making protein bars and they were supposed to be using the Lily's chocolate chips that are like sugar free and whatever. And then the people found out they were using real chocolate chips. It's like, come on. Like people are trying to get healthy and they're thinking about profits. So anyways, again, I'm back to ranting. Let's see. Archie says glycine we can get from meat, poultry, skin, bone broth, etc. Thank you for putting that out there, Archie. I appreciate that. Thank you. I only took for my coffee thinking it won't harm. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad that we were able to help you to see the difference. Thank you. Makes sense now. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate all of you that are in here just talking and asking questions. And this was super fun. I feel like I see we're at the end of our comments right now. And the one thing that I want to point out is that, I'm not sure. Hold on. Let me just back up here. Archie, I'm not sure. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. So the one thing I want to point out. Oh, hi, Donna from South Carolina. Nice to have you here. I'm going to be back Monday, 11:20 as usual. Yes, ma'am. I do a lot of studying the body. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? That's the best thing we can do. I think that in my years, so the 8 years since starting my keto lifestyle, I've learned so much extra and got reminders because I did do biology and chemistry and physiology. So I did do the sciences in university, well, CJIP and university. And like, I feel like you just get out into the world and you start living life and you don't actually use the information that you were given. And that kind of sucks, right? So I'm really happy that this has kind of pushed me back to start using my knowledge and learning some more and being able to share it with you guys. I have links to everything that I said mentioned earlier in the description. The next video that you want to watch is that dairy video. I'm telling you, it's like really good and it's going to help you to see why I'm so adamant and even more on it right now that I want you guys to do better. Now, if you want to ever like bookmark videos of mine, there's a share button that you can just grab the link and make a list of videos that if you want to come back to them, that you can just have them and just like get to the video immediately. I love doing that. I have so many doctors in my share, my list for myself of videos I go back to, especially when I want to quote them for videos and whatnot. So that's a nice trick that I figured out lately and a nice way to actually support the doctors, because when you share a video, they get, like, it helps YouTube to see that the video was helpful. So thank you, Archie. Have a wonderful day. And I will be talking to all of you guys next Monday, 11:20. Looking forward to the chat. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Talk soon. Today's video is brought to you by my keto consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description.